There are moments in life when the heart feels shattered, when loss, betrayal, or disappointment leave us questioning our worth and our purpose. It's in those silent hours, when tears fall unseen and prayers are whispered in pain, that Allah invites us closer. Islam doesn't promise a life without heartbreak, but it offers something far greater: the path to healing, peace, and renewal. The heart that breaks is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that Allah loves you enough to reshape your heart into something purer, softer, and closer to Him. Every trial, every tear, every unanswered dua is part of His divine plan to cleanse the soul and teach the heart where true love and peace lie, not in people, not in outcomes, but in Him alone. When the world turns away, Islam reminds us that Allah never does. When your heart is heavy, prayer becomes your safe place. When your trust is broken, tawakkul, reliance on Allah, becomes your strength. Healing begins the moment you stop chasing closure from people and start finding peace in sujud. The journey of a broken heart is the journey back to your Creator, and when you return, you realize that nothing was ever lost except your attachment to what was never meant to stay. Your heartbreak is a divine invitation, a sacred call from Allah that whispers through the cracks of your pain, urging you to return to Him. It is not a punishment, though it may feel like one. It is not rejection, even though everything in you might say otherwise. It is Allah's way of saying, "Come back to me. I know your heart better than anyone else, and I can heal what they broke." When we face heartbreak, whether it's the loss of someone we love, a relationship that didn't last, or a dream that fell apart, our first instinct is often to look outward. We replay conversations, question what went wrong, and hold on to what was never meant to stay. But Islam teaches us something profoundly different. When your heart breaks, it is not the end. It is the beginning of your journey back to Allah. It's the moment when the false attachments fall away and the truth of your dependence on Him becomes clear. You see, sometimes Allah allows the heart to break so that you stop worshipping what was never meant to be your God. People love status, approval. When you lose what you thought you couldn't live without, you discover that you can. Because your heart still beats, your soul still seeks, and your faith still whispers His name. That's when you realize nothing you lost was truly yours. Of what belongs to you in this world is what brings you closer to Allah, and what takes you away from Him was never meant to stay. Heartbreak in Islam is not a meaningless ache. It's one of the most powerful forms of purification. It strips you of pride, ego, and illusion. It reminds you how fragile this life is, how temporary every connection can be. And yet, through that fragility, you discover something eternal, the love of Allah. The kind of love that doesn't fade, doesn't betray, and doesn't abandon you when you're at your weakest. When your heart breaks, Allah is giving you the chance to rebuild it, but this time on His foundation. He's inviting you to find your peace not in the person who left, but in the one who remains. He's inviting you to seek contentment not in control, but in surrender. And surrender, in Islam, is not defeat. It's liberation. It's the moment you release the illusion that you were ever in charge, and you fall into the mercy of the one who always was. Think of the Prophet Sabr, who faced heartbreak in ways most of us cannot imagine. He lost loved ones, was rejected by his people, and faced pain upon pain, yet his response was always turning back to Allah. His heart was tested, but it was never hardened. That's the essence of faith, to let pain soften you, not destroy you. To let heartbreak teach you compassion, humility, and trust. There is a reason why Allah says in the Quran, indeed, with hardship comes ease. 94:6. Notice how He doesn't say if Sayyidus after hardship, but akfin with it. Because within your heartbreak lies the seed of your healing. Within the tears you shed is a closeness to Allah that ease could never bring. Pain doesn't distance you from Him, it draws you nearer. if you let it. Sometimes what you call heartbreak is Allah protecting you. He saw conversations you didn't hear, intentions you couldn't read, and endings you were not ready for. So he removed something or someone, not to punish you, but to redirect you. He took something away so you could learn that peace doesn't come from what you hold onto, but from who holds you. And that's the essence of tawakkul, trust. So when you feel your heart breaking, don't rush to fill the silence. Don't chase closure from people who cannot give it. Sit in that sacred stillness. Cry before Allah. Tell Him everything, every ache, every question, every fear. Because every tear that falls for His sake is not wasted. It is recorded, honored, and answered in ways unseen. Your heartbreak is not a sign that Allah has abandoned you. It's a sign that He wants your attention. It's His gentle way of reminding you that no heart can hold you like His can. So let the pain bring you to your knees, not in despair, but in prayer. Let the loss cleanse your attachments and teach your soul where home truly is. Because when you finally turn your pain into a conversation with Allah, you'll realize something beautiful. Your heartbreak didn't destroy you. It rebuilt you. It stripped away everything false until only faith remained. And in that space, your heart becomes whole again. Not because life is perfect, but because you've learned that peace was never in people, or outcomes, or control. Peace was always in Him. Peace begins in surrender. Those words carry a truth that sits quietly at the heart of Islam. The word fiqh Islam itself comes from the root as elementars, which means peace and also submission. That connection is not a coincidence. True peace, the kind that settles the heart, silences fear, and steadies the soul, is born only when we stop fighting against Allah's plan and begin to trust it. We spend so much of our lives struggling for control, trying to write our own stories, chasing what we think will make us happy. But the deeper truth is this peace does not come from controlling life. It comes from surrendering it to the one who already controls everything. When you surrender to Allah, you are not giving up. You are giving into something greater. You are acknowledging that there is wisdom beyond your understanding, mercy beyond your mistakes, and a plan beyond your path. You stop demanding that life look a certain way, and instead you begin to trust that every twist and turn is guided by divine design. That's when the heart starts to soften. That's when the anxiety eases. Because you finally understand that you were never meant to carry the weight of the world, only to carry faith. Surrender does not mean you stop trying. It means you try with trust. You take action, you make dua, you give your best, but you release the outcome. You do your part, then you let go and let Allah write the rest. This is the balance Islam teaches. Tie your camel and trust in Allah. You don't stand still in fear, nor do you chase in desperation. You move with calm conviction, knowing that whatever is written for you will reach you, even if it passes through 1,000 obstacles. And what isn't written for you will never stay, even if you hold onto it with all your strength. The struggle we often face is that surrender feels like loss. Our hearts resist it. We want things to go our way. We want answers now. We want clarity. But surrender is not losing. It's freeing yourself from the illusion that you ever had control in the first place. The Prophet lived this truth so beautifully. Every hardship he faced, every trial he endured, he responded with one simple act: surrender. He never lost faith, even when the path was dark. He understood that peace was not found in the absence of hardship, but in the presence of trust. When you surrender to Allah, you begin to see life differently. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, what is Allah teaching me? You stop seeing obstacles as punishments and start seeing them as signs. The pain that once felt unbearable becomes a teacher. The delay that once made you restless becomes a mercy. The loss that once broke your heart becomes the doorway to your deepest healing. Because surrender changes the lens through which you see everything. You stop seeing from the eyes of fear and start seeing from the heart of faith. It's in those quiet moments of surrender, in sujud, in whispered du'as, in tears that no one else sees, that the heart finally breathes again. You realize that peace was never about having a life free from problems. It was about having a heart free from resistance. The storms may not stop, but the heart that trusts no longer fears them. You stand firm because you know the one who controls the winds also controls your fate. Sometimes Allah tests us not to break us, but to bring us to this very point, the point where we stop running, stop resisting, and simply surrender. Because surrender is where healing begins. When you finally say, "Ya Allah, I don't understand, but I trust you," something inside you shifts. The burden that felt too heavy begins to lighten. The chaos that filled your mind starts to settle. That is the miracle of surrender. It transforms confusion into clarity, fear into faith, and pain into peace. There's a reason why the most peaceful moments in prayer are found in sujud, when your forehead touches the ground. It's the posture of complete surrender, the physical expression of what the soul was always meant to do. In that moment, you are closest to Allah because you've let go of everything else. You've stopped fighting for control and started resting in His control. That's the peace your heart has been searching for, the peace that only comes from letting go. So when life feels uncertain, when doors close, when your plans fall apart, remind yourself peace doesn't come from fixing everything. It comes from trusting that Allah already knows. You don't need to know how or when. You just need to believe that His plan is kinder, wiser, and more complete than your own. Surrender is not the end of effort. It's the beginning of peace. It's the quiet realization that you are exactly where you are meant to be, even when you don't understand why. It's the trust that every delay, every detour, and every disappointment is carrying you towards something better, something meant for your soul, not just your life. And when you finally surrender, you will feel it. That stillness within, that calm after the storm. That is the peace that comes when you stop fighting Allah's plan and start flowing with it. Peace doesn't begin when life becomes easy. Peace begins in surrender. Your dua is your lifeline, the bridge between your heart and the one who created it. It is not just words spoken into the ear. It is the whisper of your soul reaching toward its source. In moments of despair, confusion, or loneliness, dua is what keeps the heart alive. It reminds you that no matter how broken you feel, you are never truly alone. When the world turns silent and no one understands what's happening inside you, dua becomes your voice, your comfort, and your anchor. It is the lifeline that connects you to the one who never leaves, never forgets, and never grows tired of hearing. There are times when life feels heavy, when the pain in your chest doesn't seem to ease, and every attempt to move forward feels like walking through a storm. In those moments, dua is not just an act of worship, it's survival. It's the way the believer breathes. It's the way the heart remembers that help is near, that hope is not lost, and that Allah listens even to the whispers you cannot put into words. You might feel like no one sees your tears, but every tear shed in dua is seen, every tremor in your voice is heard, and every unspoken plea is known to the one who is closer to you than your own jugular vein. Sometimes, people say, "I've been making dua for so long, and nothing is changing." But what they don't see is that every dua changes you. It shapes your patience, deepens your faith, softens your heart, and brings you closer to Allah. The Prophet said, dua is the essence of worship. Why? Because it is the purest form of surrender. When you raise your hands in dua, you are admitting that you cannot do it alone, and that realization is the beginning of real strength. Dua humbles strength. It removes the illusion of control and places your trust back where it belongs, with the one who controls everything. There's something deeply beautiful about the way dua works. You speak to Allah, sometimes in full sentences, sometimes in broken sobs, and even when you can't find the right words, He already knows what your heart is trying to say. You don't have to be eloquent. You don't have to sound perfect. You just have to be sincere. That's what makes dua powerful. Sincerity. When your heart speaks honestly, the heavens listen. Even the prophets, the most beloved of Allah's creation, turned to dua in their darkest hours. When Prophet Yunus A.S. was swallowed by the whale, isolated and surrounded by darkness, he said, "There is no deity except you, exalted are you. Indeed, I have been of the wrongdoers." It was a dua that wasn't long, but it was full of truth, humility, and surrender. And Allah rescued him. When Prophet Ayub A.S. lost his health, his wealth, and his family, he turned to Allah with patience and prayer, and Allah restored what he had lost and more. And when Maryam A.S. cried out in pain beneath the palm tree, Allah responded with provision and ease. Their stories remind us that dua is not just a ritual. It's a lifeline that connects us to mercy in the moments we feel most powerless. Sometimes the answer to your dua comes quickly, other times it takes years. And sometimes Allah doesn't give you what you asked for. Not because He didn't hear you, but because He is protecting you. Every no from Allah is a redirection, not a rejection. Every delay carries wisdom. Perhaps the thing you're praying for isn't what your soul needs right now. Perhaps the way is purifying your heart, teaching you patience, and preparing you for something far better. Allah hears every word, and He answers in His time, in His way, and always in your best interest. Dua also reminds you of your worth in Allah's eyes. Think about it. The King of all creation has opened the door for you to speak directly to Him at any time, in any place, without intermediaries. You don't need an appointment. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to turn your heart toward Him. And every time you do, He listens, even when you've been distant, even when you've made mistakes, even when you feel unworthy. That's the mercy of Allah. Your dua is your safe space. It's where you can be completely honest, where you can cry, complain, question, and still be loved. It's where you pour out the weight of what no one else can carry, and in return, Allah fills your heart with a peace that no one else can give. Sometimes, He doesn't change your situation immediately, but He changes you so that you can handle it. That's also an answer. So never stop making dua. Not because you're desperate, but because dua itself is the connection that keeps you alive inside. Keep talking to Allah about everything, the big things, the small things, the things you can't tell anyone else. Because when you make dua, you are reminding your heart of the truth it often forgets, that you are never abandoned, never unheard, and never without hope. Your dua is your lifeline because it ties your fragile heart to the infinite mercy of the one who heals. It is through dua that broken hearts mend, restless souls find calm, and lost souls find their way home. When you can't do anything else, when all you can do is whisper, Ya Allah, help me. Know that those few words are more powerful than you can imagine. Because the one you're speaking to is always listening, detached to reconnect. These words carry a deep and quiet wisdom that sits at the center of the spiritual journey. Life pulls us in many directions. We become attached to people, outcomes, plans, approval, comfort, and control. We cling to what feels safe, familiar, or meaningful, thinking these things define who we are or complete us. But the truth is, every attachment that ties your heart too tightly to the world will one day cause you pain. Detachment in Islam doesn't mean abandoning life, isolating yourself, or not caring. It means caring deeply, but without becoming enslaved to what is temporary. It means learning to hold everything in your hands, not in your heart, so that when Allah takes something away, your heart remains intact. There comes a point in every believer's life when Allah gently, or sometimes painfully, removes what you thought you couldn't live without. A person, a dream, an opportunity, a plan. And in that moment, you feel the itch of detachment. It's not just loss. It's a soul, deep emptiness that makes you question your purpose. But if you look closely, you'll see something profound. Allah is not punishing you. He's inviting you to reconnect to Him, to detach from the creation so you can return to the Creator, to stop seeking from what is limited and turn back to the source of all abundance. When the heart becomes too attached to anything other than Allah, it begins to depend on it for happiness, peace, and validation. And as long as your heart depends on something that can be taken away, you'll always live in fear. You'll fear loss, rejection, or failure. That fear robs you of peace, detachment. Then, it's the realization that your worth, your joy, and your security do not come from people, possessions, or circumstances. They come from Allah alone. When you let go of the false attachments, you make space for divine connection. You empty the heart of noise so that the remembrance of Allah can echo clearly within it. It's one of the greatest paradoxes of faith. You have to let go to hold on. You have to detach from the world to truly connect with the one who created it. The Prophet Seer lived among people, loved deeply, and cared sincerely, but his heart was never chained by his attachments. He cried for his loved ones, but his peace was never dependent on them. His connection to Allah was stronger than any worldly tie. That's the kind of balance we are called to live. To love without worship, to give without expectation, and to walk through the world with a heart that belongs to the hereafter. Detachment is not coldness. It's knowing that people are blessings, not anchors. It's recognizing that the job, the relationship, the dream, all of it is temporary. All of it is a trust from Allah, not your ultimate source of fulfillment. When you detach, you begin to see life as it really is. A journey, not a destination. And that shift brings a calm strength, because even when things fall apart, you no longer collapse with them. You learn to say, if Allah took it, it was never meant to stay. If He allowed it, there's wisdom in the loss. Sometimes, Allah detaches you from something not to hurt you, but to heal you. He removes distractions that were quietly pulling you away from Him. He closes doors you would have walked through blind. He tests your attachments to reveal where your heart truly rests. And in that process, you discover something profound, that your connection with Allah was always the one thing you couldn't afford to lose. To detach is to remember that you are a traveler. The Prophet said, "And be in this world as though you were a stranger or a traveler." Travelers don't cling to every place they pass through. They rest. They gather what they need and then they move on. This life is the same. Everything you love here is meant to be temporary. A taste, not the feast. The feast is with Allah. When you start to detach from the illusion that this world can satisfy you, you begin to reconnect with the one who actually can. You find peace not in having more, but in needing less. You stop begging for love from those who cannot give it consistently and start receiving love from the one who never withholds it. You stop fighting for control and start trusting in divine timing. You stop chasing what runs and start resting in what stays. Allah's presence, Allah's plan, Allah's mercy. Detachment brings the kind of serenity that nothing else can. It doesn't mean you stop feeling or stop loving. It means your love becomes purer, rooted in faith, not fear. You can love someone for the sake of Allah, and if they leave, you can still love Allah for the sake of yourself. You can dream big, but you no longer break when things don't unfold your way. Because your peace no longer depends on outcomes, it depends on connection. To detach, to reconnect, is to rise above the illusions of this world and to anchor your heart where it can finally rest. Because when your heart is no longer tied to what is temporary, it becomes free to connect deeply with what is eternal. And that is when you taste real peace. The peace that comes from knowing that whatever is taken, whatever changes, your connection with Allah remains. And that connection is everything. Turn pain into purpose. These words hold a truth that every soul must one day learn. Pain is not random. It is not meaningless. It is one of the most powerful teachers Allah places on our path. Every wound, every heartbreak, every loss carries within it the potential for transformation. What hurts you the most can, if you let it, become the very thing that elevates you. Islam teaches us that trials are not punishments, they are invitations. They are calls to awaken, to reflect. The pain you feel today is not meant to destroy you. It's meant to direct you towards something greater, something purer, something eternal. When pain enters your life, it shakes everything. It breaks your routines, your comfort, your illusions of control. You find yourself asking, why me? Why now? But if you look closely, you'll see that pain often enters where something within you needs to. It comes to break attachments, to soften a hard heart, or to remind you that this world was never meant to be your paradise. Every hardship is an opportunity for the soul to rise above the limits of the ego and to reconnect with the one who never leaves. Pain, in its deepest sense, is not just suffering, it is purification. It cleanses you of pride, strips away false hopes, and humbles you before Allah. The beauty of faith is that it gives meaning to pain. Without faith, pain feels like chaos. With faith, pain becomes mends. Every prophet went through deep pain, not despite their closeness to Allah, but because of it. Prophet Yusuf A.S. was betrayed by his brothers and thrown into a well, but that pain became the path to his purpose, to rise as a leader and a source of mercy. Prophet Ayub A.S. lost, yet his patience turned his suffering into a legacy of faith. The Prophet Muhammad buried his children, was rejected by his people, and endured immense hardship, yet through his pain, he became the vessel through which mercy reached the world. Pain, when faced with faith, becomes a passage, not an end. Turning pain into purpose doesn't mean pretending that everything is fine or suppressing what you feel. It means acknowledging the H, allowing yourself to grieve, but not letting the grief define you. It means asking yourself, what can this teach me? How can I use this to grow closer to Allah, to become more compassionate, more resilient, more sincere? When pain drives you to prayer, to introspection, to patience, then it is no longer a curse. It becomes a gift, because through that pain you become someone new, someone deeper, someone closer to Allah. Pain can also awaken empathy. The heart that has suffered understands the suffering of others. When you've known loneliness, you recognize it in someone's eyes. When you've cried in the silence of the night, you become the person who comforts others in theirs. This is one of the ways Allah turns your pain into purpose, by making you a source of light for others. The very wound you wish had never happened becomes the doorway through which you help heal others. Your pain gives birth to your mission, but to reach that point, you must first surrender. You must stop fighting the pain and start asking what Allah wants you to see through it. Often, we cling to what was lost, the relationship that ended, the dream that failed, the season that passed, not realizing that Allah removed something to make space for something better. Pain redirects your path when you've gone astray. It reminds you that ease doesn't teach the way difficulty does. Ease rarely changes you, pain always does. It pushes you toward tawakkul, trust, sabr, patience, and shukr, gratitude, the 3 keys to spiritual growth. And yet, it's not easy. Healing takes time. There will be days when the pain feels raw and unbearable. But remember, Healing does not mean forgetting. It means transforming. It means taking what broke you and using it to build strength, wisdom, and closeness to Allah. Every tear shed in patience, every prayer whispered in the dark, is seen by the one who promises, indeed, with hardship comes ease. Quran 94:6. That verse is not just a reassurance, it's a law of divine balance. No pain lasts forever, and no pain is wasted. One day, you'll look back on the pain that once felt impossible to bear and realize it was the turning point. You'll see how Allah used it to reshape your heart, to purify your intentions, and to align you with a deeper purpose. You'll see how what you thought was the end was actually the beginning, the start of a new chapter where your pain became your power. So don't run from your pain. Sit with it, pray through it, and let it teach you. Let it drive you towards serving, loving, and trusting Allah more deeply. Because when you turn your pain into purpose, you take control of your story again, not by changing the past, but by changing how it lives within you. And when you do that, your pain no longer defines you. It refines you. It becomes the reason you rise. It becomes the bridge between who you were and who you were meant to be. That's the beauty of Allah's mercy. Nothing is said, not even your suffering. Every age, every loss, every moment of heartbreak can be transformed into a form of worship if you let it. And in that transformation lies the truest peace, knowing that your pain was never for nothing. It was always leading you back to purpose, to strength, to Him. Love that lasts is divine love. The kind of love that does not fade with time, distance, or circumstance. It is the love that begins and ends with Allah. The only love that truly fills the heart instead of draining it. Every other kind of love, no matter how beautiful, is limited, fragile, and temporary. Human love can be sincere and deep, but it is always imperfect, because human hearts are imperfect. We change, we forget, we hurt, and we leave. But Allah's love does not change. His love is not based on what you do for Him. It's based on who He is, the most loving, the most merciful. When you experience divine love, you realize that it's the only love that gives without needing, forgives without condition, and remains when everything else disappears. From the moment you were created, Allah's love has surrounded you. It was His love that brought you into existence, that shaped your soul, that gave you life, guidance, and chances to return every time you strayed. Even when you forget Him, He never forgets. Even when you run from Him, He continues to call you back. Every blessing, every sunrise, every breath you take is a reminder of that love. Yet, as humans, we often chase love from the creation instead of turning to the Creator. We look for people to complete us, to fill the emptiness we feel inside, but no heart can hold what only belongs to Allah. That's why human love alone can never fully satisfy the soul. Because the soul was created for Him. When love is rooted in the dunya, it becomes unstable. It shifts with mood, time, and circumstance. We love people for how they make us feel, for what they give us, for how they see us. But divine love teaches us a different kind of attachment, one that is not selfish, one that is not based on possession, but on connection. It teaches us to love for the sake of Allah, to see others as gifts, not guarantees. When you love someone for the sake of Allah, your love becomes pure. You no longer love to gain something, you love to give, to nurture, to uplift, to bring both hearts closer to Him. That kind of love doesn't end when life changes. It doesn't collapse under distance, loss, or death, because it was never built on the temporary. It was built on the eternal. Divine love doesn't mean you stop loving people. It means you start loving them as through Allah. You love them as part of your worship. With kindness, mercy, and peace you forgive them not because they deserve it, but because Allah loves forgiveness. You stay gentle but because the one who loves you is gentle. When your heart is anchored in Allah, you love without being dependent. and you can let go without being destroyed. That is the strength of divine love. It gives you the ability to love deeply and still be at peace even when love changes form. The Prophet Muhammad embodied this kind of love in every relationship. His love for his family, his companion, and even his enemies was rooted in mercy, not ego. When he loved, it was for Allah. When he forgave, it was for Allah. When he let go, it was for Allah. His love was not possessive, it was freeing, because it was guided by the one who is old. It says the most loving talks, that's the example of what lasting love looks like, a love that leads you closer to Allah, not farther away from Him. True love is not found in the hands that hold you, but in the heart that prays for you when you're not there. It's not found in endless promises, but in the sincerity that survives the test of time. The love that lasts is the love that pushes you toward goodness, that helps you grow, that reminds you of who you are when you forget. It's the kind of love that stays pure because it's connected to the one who never changes. When Allah is at the center of your love, that bond becomes light, it illuminates your path, protects your heart, and gives meaning to everything you do. If you build your love on people alone, you'll always fear loss. But if you build it on Allah, loss cannot shake you. Because when you lose someone for His sake, He replaces the emptiness with peace. When you let go for His sake, He fills the space with something better. Divine love teaches you that love is not about holding tighter. It's about holding with trust. It's about knowing that every connection you have in this world is temporary, except the one you have with Him. Love that lasts is divine love because it transcends the limits of this world. It survives time, distance. The believer who loves someone for the sake of Allah will meet them again in a place where love is no longer tested. In Jannah, where hearts are finally at peace. That is the love that endures. So love deeply, but love wisely. Love people, but don't let them replace Allah in your heart. Let your love be an act of worship, not attachment. When you love for His sake, you will never be disappointed, because even if the person leaves, the reward of your love remains with the one who sees all hearts. And that's what makes divine love eternal. It's not bound by time or circumstance or outcome. It is the only love that begins before you're born and continues beyond this world. The love of Allah, the love that truly lasts,